The Irrational Confidence Podcast.
All right, Fresh, let's go to our number 23 team. This one also may surprise people, but I got to admit, I agree with you on this because both of us had them in our top 25. And I think that this team is poised for a really nice year. It's the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They're ranked number 23 going into the preseason, coming off a year where they were 7-6 on the season. Everyone's going to talk about it. So let's just get it out of the way because it's the talking point that any person who uses with Nebraska. Will Matt Rhule make the jump in year 3?
I mean, he's done it at Temple. He did it at Baylor.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I think Baylor's a little more comparable to the Big Ten. Obviously, Temple, whatever, but it showed he won at Temple. Let's put it that way.
Right.
This is the biggest jump he's gonna have to really take this program because Nebraska, maybe feel like, 2012, 2013 is probably the last time Nebraska was actually like competitive for a championship or a high bowl game. Like it's been a long time. The fan base is begging for, they're probably begging for Bo Pelini at this point.
Yeah.
But you've got to take that next step. Rayola, year 2, you've got to take that next step. Now, we did see when Dana Holgerson became an analyst and then eventually became the offensive coordinator, that offense definitely improved. Rayola looked more comfortable in the offense. They were able to move the football a little bit more effectively, score some more points. Like that was a big change. Now you have a full offseason of Dana Holgerson, who I think also helps Matt Rhule because another former big-time D1 head coach is on that staff. The two of them can bounce things off each other to help understand what they want to do to attack a defense, or even just have a general structure of a team. They have experience. They've both been in the battles and the wars as the top guy. That's a big I think the most underrated thing of Nebraska coming in is that they have that leadership centered. You have key transfers in Dane Key, Rocco Spindler on the offensive line, Elijah Pritchett on the offensive line, all come from high-level Big Ten schools like Kentucky, Notre Dame, and Alabama. I think the three of them off the top of my head. And then add in Holgerson to really get the team on there. So you have some veteran leadership, guys who've been in bigger environments, all coming to play in a high-level program. Nebraska has to take that jump this year. The schedule is actually attainable. It's not impossible. It's all there for them. Now, the problem is this defense. They only returned 4 starters and to replace the entire defensive line. They lost their DC. They lost their defensive line coach. How does this defense now, the black shirts, how do they keep that reputation and improve and get off the field? There were times, even last year when Nebraska came, we thought, all right, Nebraska's defense, they're going to find ways to shut down. This is when Indiana gets taken out. That defense could not get off the field versus Kurt Signetti and Rourke and that entire offense. And it was just like, all right, now I'm taking Indiana a little bit seriously, but man, this defense just could not get off the field. Whatever they tried to do scheme-wise, pressure-wise, it was just not working. How does this defense elevate itself to play at a higher level? You have 18 new transfers on this team across the board. That's a lot of new faces. How fast do they all gel program-wise and get them on the same page and ready to operate? Your schedule, like I mentioned, isn't terrible. You host Michigan. You avoid Ohio State, Illinois, and Indiana. So you're kind of looking okay. Yes, you have Penn State on the schedule, but there's breathing room. It's not going to be an unbearable task. The toughest 4-game stretch is all in November. If you could get 6-2, 7-1 by the time you get to November,
Right.
you get USC, which I think is very beatable. UCLA they're terrible. At Penn State is going to be a challenge late, and you host Iowa. If you have 6 wins heading into November, you can find 2 right there, get yourself 8, maybe steal one and get 9. That puts you in the conversation at 9-3, depending on who you beat. Maybe that puts Nebraska in the 15-12 range of that playoff spot.
Fun fact here for you, Fresh. Let me give you this. When was the last time Nebraska only lost less than 4 games? Last time that they only had 3 or less losses.
2012.
Try 2003.
So
2003.
We're going 22 years now.
Yeah, there you go.
So they have to achieve something they haven't achieved. Most of these kids weren't even alive for. This is Matt Rhule it's a lot, but this is going to really test his coaching ability, test the offense. But Rayola, there were moments last year where he kind of looked like a freshman, and there were moments he showed progress. He now has to live up to the hype and take the next step. He's coming home. His dad played there. It's time to show up and lead Nebraska to something significant. Could this team compete for a Big Ten title? I don't think they're competing for a Big Ten title, but are they in that? Maybe are they the Indiana or Illinois of last year, this year, where they finally things start clicking, they start playing at a high level, they have a chance. I think the ceiling for this team is 9 wins. I think the bottom is 7. It's just really how does this team show, and all those 18 transfers, those freshmen, the young kids, and Rayola show up when the lights are the brightest? Because we've seen, hey, Nebraska hosts Ohio State on Saturday night, 8 o'clock kickoff, everybody's there, and at the end of the first quarter, it's 28-0. Where's the team ready to rise to the occasion in big games and show up and try to pull off an upset and get some wins? So Matt Rhule, the pressure's on. It's year 3. Helgerson, can the offense go? And Rayola, can you show up and get it done on big third downs and make big plays? I think there's positive traction, but this is the serious time for Nebraska football. Because if they start struggling, we're gonna hear this. Well, here we go again. And is Rule the right guy? Do we go through this hiring cycle again? What's the buyout? All this stuff starts playing it. So this is a very critical year for Nebraska football and that rule.
Fresh, for me, it comes down to going to be able to protect Dylan Raiola. 27 sacks last year. This offensive line is not good. They weren't good. And then you take a look at the running game, and I get it. He threw the ball 410 times with Raiola last year, and you probably I think you probably leaned a little bit more on the passing game than the run game, even though you attempted more rushing yards or rushing attempts last year. But you weren't getting any push. Daladin is gone. Dante is gone. Emmett Johnson, I'm intrigued by him. The 5 yards of carry for him last year and kind of that backup freshman role. He could be a major player if they're able to open up some holes on the offensive line. For me, it's going to come back to the wide receivers in this group. Are they able to protect Raiola? If Raiola's not going to run himself into like some stupid sacks a couple of times like he did, and you talk about that was just being a freshman. The kid did complete 67% of his passes, though, last year. So it's interesting to see if he is able to do that. Matt Rhule at Nebraska, 0-5 versus the top 25 right now. That right there is a little bit concerning. They're 1-4 away from Lincoln in 2024. 1-4. You take a look at their schedule that they have right now. You open up on neutral site against Cincinnati. That should be a W right there. You go Maryland, Minnesota, UCLA, Penn State. You have 4 games that are not in Lincoln this season. 4. You got those games. You should be 3-1 at least. Like the only game I'm counting as a loss straight up is Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, I would kind of put Nebraska and Maryland kind of on equal footing because I think Maryland is a tough team. I think Loxley over there has that team always ready to play. They always do a little bit more with a lot less because Maryland's not like a powerhouse recruiting program. But again, the Maryland Terrapins play very hard. They're a good program. They'll play you tough. That could be a tough game. I'm interested, most likely here, Fresh, I'm with you on the November stretch. Really intrigued to see how they do there. Other 2 games I got my eye on. The game against the Wolverines on September 20th, and then the game against the Spartans on October 4th. Those 2 games, it's going to be a huge measuring stick for me, especially the game with the Spartans, because Jonathan Smith over there with Aiden Childs and what they're doing at Michigan State, we could see where Nebraska and Michigan State are going in like the pecking order of the Big Ten. If Nebraska goes in, Michigan State comes in, gets blown out in Lincoln by Nebraska, then we know that this is a team on the rise. But if Michigan State comes in and Aiden Childs and you can't handle his dual threat ability, then all of a sudden I would put more stock in what Michigan State's doing there in East Lansing than what's going on in Lincoln. If everything comes together for me, I got them up to 10 wins. If everything comes together. Well, again, on paper, which game are they dogs in? Penn State and Iowa.
Honestly, at the end of the year, they might be a favorite depending on that's the last game of the year. Now they're probably a dog, but as the season progresses, if they're going to be on that, they're probably the favorite. Because who does Iowa actually like? I look at the Iowa roster. I'm like the name now playing. that's one thing. Playing Kirk Ferentz and playing the names is one thing at the end of
Right.
the year. But they've had that well tapped in the Hawkeye football department, lately. I don't know how much they have left.
Right. And that's kind of why I got them going 10 wins because if everything comes together, it's offensive line, replacing defensive production. Johnson's able to carry the load as the running back. The defense is returning to that black shirt defense. And again, I think that October 5th, Michigan State, that's the kind of measuring stick game that we're going to see what kind of Nebraska team we're dealing with. But outside of that, if they lose a couple of these games early, then Matt Rhule, you could be on the hot. You could find yourself on the hot seat.
I mean, we've seen it like last year. They should have beat the Buckeyes. They had
They
them.
should have.
So there's times where like this team, like they're up. That's why they're ranked at 22. Just like
Right.
A&M, just like Oklahoma. There was games where they
They look
showed
really good.
that they could actually get there and get it done. They couldn't finish. And then there's games where they get the doors beat off them. And there's not overall consistent play.
I'm intrigued to see what Nebraska is going to do this year. But again, I have a worst case scenario 6-6.
Uh,
6-6.
I think 6-6 might trigger the hot seat warning from Matt Rule
I
because they,
do.
I mean, they went out there after the Scott Frost, fiasco and then
Was
go into the
bad.
NFL, bring Rule in, who's shown that he can win at Baylor and win at Temple. Without, they have much more resources at Nebraska. You would think that would finally kick it in. So we'll see. Not, I also want, we are not pushing for people to get fired, but reality kicks in, folks. Like
Right.
you're paying that much money, things are happening. These coaches got to deliver.
Yeah. And I don't think Fresh and I, we really have ever called for a lot of coaches. Scott Frost, we did kind of say you were on hot seat watch there too. And I think also we said Mike Norvell and maybe Napier. But again, we're not calling for anyone to be fired here.
No.
But